right, guys, welcome to Essie and Scrappy for I don't know what episode. Lucas over there is in the dark a little bit, but it's all good. He's usually in the dark, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit in the dark. But wait a second. Wait a second, lads. It works.
Oh, he's got a clapper. Is that what that is?
But beyond that, real quick, happy 8 months of Essie and Scrappy. We have been doing this nonsense for 8 months.
That's pretty
crazy
fun
to think about.
Yeah, no, it's good. You know what? And we've been talking about lots of things. We've been to Fargo. We've been all over the place doing lots of different things. But this coming weekend, even though the season has kind of gotten kicked off already, we're now starting to get to the in-season tournament.
This is where we hit the meat and potatoes of the season, especially here in the Southeast. Lots of fun stuff going on. Everybody in the Southeast now is getting into full swing, minus Florida, because they just, for some reason, decide to wrestle later, but neither here nor there. But even they're having some preseason and takedown tourneys and a lot of tournaments that for some reason have the word rumble and or tussle in the title. But beyond that, this is, I don't want to jump the gun, but the tournament we're going to talk about is probably one of my top 3 favorite tournaments in the Southeast every year.
Yeah. And we're going to get to the Southern Slam and the preview of the Southern Slam here in a few minutes. But before we do so, let's talk a little bit about some reflection of the season so far. Let's talk about colleges. We just saw Iowa versus Iowa State. We've seen some really, really good duels. I love the 3-point takedown. I love the near fall. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to watch so far.
I do too. I'm making a comment now. That was a takedown for Chittum. Argue with your mother. Don't argue with me. Go argue with your mother. That was a takedown.
I don't think anybody in the Southeast disagrees with you. Now, all the Hawkeye fans,
of course, they're not going to disagree.
Well, maybe Phil Arnold would disagree with you because he's over there on the Hawkeye bench. But you know what I'm saying?
Did that kid? He looked incredible. Up at 184. He's up at my weight class now.
They bumped him up to knock out a top 6 guy 10 pounds heavier. What the heck? What are they doing? Gabe Arnold.
I mean,
boom.
I'll tell you this much. Anybody that has rolled with Gabe Arnold, watch that match, and they're not surprised. Like, that doesn't surprise me, like, at all. I know what's in that kid, and I love that dude. That's one of my dogs right there. I love that kid. He's a great person as well as a great wrestler. I am so happy to see him succeed in the way he's succeeding. That's my dog. I'll never say a bad word about Gabe Arnold.
Yeah, no, Gabe is awesome. We talked a little bit back and forth on kind of like direct messages and stuff. It was just awesome to watch him compete. And, it was awesome to watch Chittum compete. I mean, again, so many Southeast wrestlers competing at all the levels, D1,
Absolutely.
D2, NAIA. We've had a lot of fun over the first few weeks of the season. I'll tell you what, it's going to be a lot of fun watching those college wrestlers get ready to go for a national championship, because we'll have several that I think are going to be, they're going to be in the hunt. Yeah, they're going to be in the hunt.
Absolutely.
All right. So what about on the high school side? It's been a week and a half because we had Thanksgiving there. By the way, are you a little fatter than you were before, or no?
No, actually, I kept my weight relatively down. We're still working down.
All right.
Yeah,
I got
my
fatter.
weight mainly checked.
I got fatter. I got a little bit fatter.
I mean, between fat and Scrappy, you are the fat in that title, so that's all right.
That's true. Although it could be fat and fatter.
As well, to be fair. If we're going to be honest, it could be fat and fatter. By the way, speaking of like things we're doing over break, because I've had people ask questions. By the end, I want to say, if anything, it might get pushed to December. I will have individual rankings out for Georgia. it's a pain in the you-know-what because of the fact that a lot of these events aren't on track and stuff, and it's rough because I wanna do it as best as I can. My matrix always yells at me because there's a lot of, not inputted results. So just know, ladies and gentlemen, that that will happen over the next, like I said, couple of weeks. Don't be surprised if it just drops and I post about it. Don't be surprised.
Yeah, well, and we're dropping team rankings for each of the states over the next week and that sort of thing. But we are pretty early. I will say though, a couple of teams at least okay. So Tennessee is so early. Florida is not really even started yet,
Non-existent.
right? Alabama, I haven't seen a whole lot of change. Huntsville still looks like a team. Thompson still looks like they're pretty solid. We're going to see a bunch of them. Let's see, not Thompson or Huntsville, but Mortimer, Jordan, Mountain Brook, all of them at Southern Slam here coming
Yep.
up.
Bob Jones.
Bob Jones, who's looked pretty good. But in the state of Georgia, I do know that I've watched a few results come in about South Effingham, and that is a team that looks like they are in they're in season form
Not
right now.
not to jump the shark in any way, shape, or form, but they are. When the new rankings come out, you'll see where I stand on them.
Yeah.
You'll see where I stand, and, and we'll leave it there. Right? It just when it comes out, it will be seen.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Let's see a couple other things. Up in North Carolina, I love North Carolina in that they are. Oh, I lost you. Is your video still there? Oh,
Oh goodness.
you okay?
Yeah. What just happened? Oh, hang on. There we go. For some reason, my keyboard has a no camera button.
Trying to keep yourself
We're
hidden
good.
from
We're
everybody. I
we're good.
got you. I got you. All right.
I
Up in
need
North
I need to
Carolina,
run away with someone.
I was just gonna say, up in North Carolina, they produce a lot of resorts. I will say, I was so pleasantly surprised about Georgia this past weekend. There were a lot of results for the Thanksgiving break, a lot more than usual you see in Georgia. So that's
Yeah, I
good.
also was kind of surprised about that. That a lot of teams seemingly are on the bandwagon of wrestling over Thanksgiving break, or at least getting in some work around the Thanksgiving season, which I do enjoy. I think that that's good for the for the programs at large.
All right. So let's jump into we alluded to the fact that there are going to be team rankings that we're updating the team rankings over the next week because there's 7 states and everything else. We're not really going to break those down. If there's some big momentous change, maybe next weekend we'll talk about, this team taking over the number 1 spot or something like that. If you're really interested,
I'll say
yeah.
in mind, there's 2 changes that will absolutely have to be discussed. There's 2 that will.
In the state of Georgia or another state?
Yep, in the state of Georgia, there's 2.
Okay. Do you want to tell us what they are, or you want to wait till they drop?
I'll give you one of them. I'll give you one of them.
All right.
In 3A, Columbus shoots up to the top of the rankings.
Why?
They had a wonderful. Oh, what was the duels? Oh goodness, they just won a duel tournament
down by the river.
Yes, down by the river. Their performance at Down by the River, and specifically seeing where certain guys in their lineup are going to be. It just the way my matrix read them differently. They jumped the queue. I believe they were in 5th. They jumped to the number 1 spot, jumping Ringgold, Franklin County, Bremen, Gilmer, and the rest of the pack. However,
right.
3A is still super tight. It's still the tightest ranked class in the entire state. Still lots of things that could happen in 3A. I'll give you that one. The other one, go look at SE Wrestle Plus.
Hey, so did you hear all the hubbalub or hubbaloo or whatever the heck you call it about what happened in the Columbus Mill Creek duel?
I heard rumors. I did not get the full story yet. Mr. Mills is the one that said to me he needed to tell me something. So I'm expecting there to be something intriguing there.
Oh, from what I heard, it went off the rails.
Were they just having a mare? Was it
I
one of those?
I wondered, based upon what I heard, I wondered if they were like going to go outside and like actually throw down and have a fight. But I'm not
Oh,
condoning
what team are
any.
you picking in a
I,
fight there?
I'm not going to push any of this. I haven't seen any of it. All I've heard is different
I
people
might
talking
pick Mill
about it.
Creek if those teams fight.
And I'll
If
tell
those
you
teams
what,
had to fight, I might pick Mill Creek.
we're not going down that path.
You don't have to. I can.
All right. Yeah, that's good because Columbus did have a good dual win. That's true. And
Yeah, that's a huge dual win for them.
all right. So even though we're not going to really talk a whole lot of detail, and again, if you want to see the changes, there are subtle changes in some of the rankings in different states. I know in North Carolina where I was doing it, Havelock, the girls moved above Lumberton. They had a really good weekend as well. But
there was a lot of movement in my girls' rankings in Tennessee. I'll say that.
really?
There was a lot of movement. Yeah. Spots 5 through 10 are different.
Well, and honestly, spots 5 through 10 in some places are really different because we just didn't. I mean, that's the area where you're not 100% sure where a number 12 team compares to a number 6 team, right? And then you see them in person.
And I'll give you, you know what, for my ladies, I'll give one big move on the ladies' side just to kind of, Carrollton and Greenbrier and Georgia State are top 2, but the number 3 team in the entire state is your Lumpkin County Indians.
Oh,
they look incredible. Go look at their results from golf, from Iron. Like, no, they ain't go to Iron Man, sorry, but just they've looked incredible the past couple of weeks. They've looked sensational.
But speaking of Iron Maiden, Jordan beat both those teams to win that tournament.
Yes, they did. Jordan is also in the mix. Oh, no. Jordan's in there. Don't misunderstand me. And Jordan's in there too.
And Gilmer. Gilmer has actually had some pretty good results on the girls' side as well. So
let me tell you something. This year, the girls' state tournament is shaping up to be a hoot.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm going to say it again. The girls' classification might be my favorite classification in the entire state. It really might be. Carrollton, Greenbrier, Lumpkin, Jordan, Woodward, Gilmer. Then down the way, you got teams like Columbus, Chattooga, Gainesville, who shockingly beat the brakes off of Chestatee in a dual meet a couple weeks ago. Wheeler has a handful of girls. You got Chestatee in the mix. Like, don't forget Northside as well. They still have a couple hammers. Like, watch out for that girls division to be a absolute barn burner the entire way through the postseason.
All right, so let's jump to, I just released the top 15 girls across the Southeast.
Yes, you did.
And based upon your comments related to Georgia, I think you don't agree with where some of the Georgia teams are in this ranking. Is that true or not true?
So I think that those teams are closer together than you have it. Like, so you have Greenbrier ahead of Carrollton, which I can understand. I still, to this point, until I see Greenbrier I'm going to keep saying about Greenbrier, they have the talent. That's never been the question. The issue with me has always been, I need to see them put a performance together in totality to give them that number 1 spot. Jordan looked great at Iron Maiden. I'm not ready to jump them all the way up the queue. I had them at 7th. I need to see them do that consistently. And again, I'm not saying they can't. I'm not saying they will. I saw a lot of their girls in the offseason. They look great. A lot of their team was on Bison at not deep South, backyard brawl.
Mhm.
So I don't necessarily. I think all the three Georgia teams are closer together than you have them. I like
Well,
where Greenwood is placed at South Carolina. I'll
right.
say that. I like that they're top 10. They deserve their flowers. Um, West Creek being your second ranked Tennessee team, right? Yep, second
Yeah.
ranked team out of Tennessee is interesting to me. That's an interesting one. I will say they are not second in my standing, but
No. Okay. All right. All
no,
right.
no, they're up there. Like they're in the mix. Don't misunderstand me, but they're. I have Ross View ahead of them to this point.
Would we agree? Would you agree with my rankings of Cleveland number 1 in the Southeast, Daphne, Alabama number 2, Matanzas number 3?
You want to be honest with you? To me, it's Cleveland, big jump, Daphne, big jump, Matanzas, big jump than the rest. I think those three teams are on a different level.
I agree. I
In
agree.
my opinion, from what I've seen. Like you look at Cleveland, man, Boskin, I'm gonna go out on record. If I'm starting a girls program today with any coach in the Southeast that is the head coach, I love me some Donnell Bradley, but I might just pick Josh Boskin. What he can do with girls that are nothing. I've seen him take girls that can't put 2 feet together and still stand. If they put their 2 feet together, they're going to fall over. I've seen him take those girls and turn them into legit varsity starters and girls that can place at a state tournament and win big matches. He is an incredible coach. And what he's done with that Cleveland program turned them into an absolute dynasty on the girls' side. I mean, obviously, you talk about Piper Fowler, but there's far Diamond. I mean, we could name their lineup if we had to.
Right.
But yeah,
Well, and I think
for me, I think
I think the thing that stands out about Cleveland, Daphne, and Matanzas is that they're not just two girls, right?
no.
They're teams. Like their teams are going to. They don't have many holes, and I'll tell you what. I mean, Daphne has shown week in week out of Alabama. They're tough. They're a tough team. Matanzas in Florida. Florida's got some great girls teams, and right now they look like they are absolute studs. The thing that separates them from everyone else is I think that other teams have some real good wrestlers, single wrestlers. I just don't know what the depth looks like. I don't know what the rest of the team's going to look like.
So that's where I think a lot of this is interesting. I'm going to say this to you. From the teams that I am overviewing for ranking, in my opinion, I think not having Rossview on there is interesting. And then I'm going to keep saying it, man. Lumpkin County, bro. They have a legit 5 that, bro, I'm telling you,
So where would Lumpkin County go?
I'd probably have them 14th.
Okay.
I'd probably have it Cleveland, Daphne, Matanzas, Havelock. I think Hernando and Lumberton probably next. Then I think you'd hit that pack of Georgia teams. Go, let's say Greenbrier, Greenwood, Carrollton, Jordan, Thompson. I think all together. North Henderson. I think Freedom there, and then as well, I think that's where you'd hit like Rossview, Lumpkin, West Creek. I think would be there. So I don't think you're too far off on this one. I think you're probably right about where it would be. I do agree though that top 3 I think is a different tier.
I think the thing that's really interesting, and we're gonna get to this when we get into the boys, is that it really depends upon the tournament, right? So you put
absolutely
you put the 64 best girls teams together and them into a thing. You're gonna need your Greta and Nora Garbazovas, right, for Lumpkin County, but
Yep.
you're gonna need a few of those other Lumpkin County girls to score points for them to maintain that level. And that's where I feel very confident about the top 3. But look at Enterprise, right? You're going to have Evelyn Holmes-Smith going to score points for you. Is Mallory Ladd in that situation going to score points for you? Is, this person going to score points for you?
That's why I think Enterprise is outside the top 15 for that exact reason. I might even go as far as outside the top 20. I think that they need to show that their full lineup could do it more often. And not only can do it consistently. That I think is the key, is doing it consistently.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump over to the top 25 boys, which there were a couple questions I had in this situation. Question number one was, should we include Lake Highland Prep in the rankings? You know,
man, it's weird. That's weird.
They're a prep school. They don't wrestle much of the Southeast teams. Yeah, they go to Ironman, they go to like all these top level competitions, but you never really get an opportunity to see them against a South Dade or a Baylor or a Cleveland or any of them. I like including them, but I just don't know if they should be even in the rankings. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of the same boat with you. I kind of feel like it's comparing apples and sledgehammers, because the way everything down to, so talking to guys like Claudio Torres and something, their academic structure is different. Like, because they're prep school, they go about things differently. It's so different. I don't know. Like, that's a weird one for me. I mean, look, if we're going based on what teams, what units of high school age wrestlers are the best in the Southeast, Lake Highland Prep is number one. I don't think that, no disrespect to Baylor, Dade, I think LHP's on another level, just because of the things that they're allowed to do to bring kids in differently. It's just that simple. Like, it's no disrespect to them. But yeah, I think that's a weird question. I don't think it's necessary. You know what I mean? That's kind of dealer's choice. Like,
yeah, no, I included them. I just was wondering, as I was including them, I was going, should I? Should I not? I don't know. So, all right. So the other thing was the Cleveland fans, not surprisingly, are going, what? Why are we ranked behind Baylor? Right? And
there was another team that right behind my opinion. Not Tennessee, but we'll get there when we get there.
And you know, their point is that Baylor didn't win a state title last year. Cleveland's run 6 in a row, all these different things. And I think there's a couple of things I try to respond to as it relates to this. Number one, what happened last year doesn't have anything to do with this year. And number two is, remember the point, and that is, if you gathered the 100 best teams and put them in a tournament, Baylor's got Max Norman, Hunter Sturgill, Nate Askew, several individuals who are going to make the podium and score points for you. That's why I have them in front.
You don't even got to go that far. I'll put it to you like this. They were a great team. They were going to be ahead of Cleveland to begin with. And then they added Max Norman,
right,
and Matt Hart and Titus Norman. I'm sorry, Cleveland. I love you guys.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Hart was a national prep runner-up. I mean, come on.
They're adding, and Max Norman just got done having one of the best preseasons I've seen of a guy in the Southeast in a long time. Fargo runner-up goes and dominates the Grapple Fall Classic, like not even close. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, that's one of the, like, I almost feel like in a weird way, it's the same thing as the girls. LHP, Baylor, Dade, and then I kind of feel like everybody else. I feel like those top three are in a different level of their own.
So for those of you around the Southeast that don't really understand South Dade has obviously got Sawyer Bartelt and obviously has some super, super talented wrestlers on their team. AJ Solis and Luis Acevedo and Chris Sanchez and so on and so forth.
Just name their lineup.
Yeah.
Just go 1 to 14.
All of those kids are going to score points for you. So that's why South Dade is going to have your top point scorer. There's nobody in the Southeast at 215 that's better than Sawyer Bartelt. And then you're going to get points for everybody else. I mean,
I know what I'm gonna do. I know exactly what I'm gonna do this year. Actually, after the postseason, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I have something interesting planned. I'm gonna take the top 4 teams. I'm gonna take the top 4 teams from each class in each of the states, and I'm going to run my matrix through a dual tournament. And I'm going to say, okay, who wins this?
All right. I'd love to see it.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting, actually.
Well, you know what? We could do it as a in March. We'll do it as a post show.
That's what, oh no, it'll be after Florida and Mississippi State. So I know those are the two latest. Okay. It'll be after them.
All right. So after South Day, we've got Cleveland, Camden, Beaufort, Gibson. I have Huntsville, Tampa Jesuit, Eastside. So what are you thinking? What do you think in those groups of teams?
I think Huntsville is a little high. I'm not going that a little high. I think Summit is also a little high. I think you have Knoxville Halls pretty low. And I would have Camden above Cleveland. And I might go as far as to say Beaufort over Cleveland too.
Okay.
Like if I'm talking heads up, if I'm betting LHP, Baylor, Dade, I'm obviously taking over Cleveland. Probably putting Camden heads up over them. I'm thinking about Beaufort probably too. Yeah, I would probably have Cleveland below the two Georgia teams. I agree where Gibson is. I agree that Eastside is a top 10 team in the Southeast. I do agree with that. I will say, and I am.
Go ahead.
What were you gonna say? No, what were you gonna say?
No. I was just gonna say, and then we hit like this 11 to 25 where there's a lot of
I appreciate that you give respect. I'm appreciating that you're giving a lot of respect to Georgia's 1A with the fact that Social Circle and Pittsburgh are both top 25 because damn it, they deserve to be, and I appreciate that. Now, can I argue pedantically about how I think Social Circle could beat Thompson? Yes, but I also think Thompson as well could beat a couple of teams ahead of them. I think it's like you said that 12 to 25 is super fluid.
Yeah. Is there a team in the top 25 or not listed in my top 25 that you think should be there?
Let me see.
So I'm off the top of my head.
I think you can make an argument.
Go ahead.
I think you can make an argument for Central Carroll.
All right. Would you put Central Carroll?
I think an argument can be made.
Would you put them above, say, an Ola or a Cass?
I was going to say, my three out of Georgia that I think could have an argument made for them is Central Carroll, Ola, and Woodward Academy. I think those three, and then Cass, I think, not a full step behind, but I think Cass that next level. I think there's a couple of Georgia teams that could have an argument, but I also think at a Tennessee, for instance, I think you could look at a team like a Signal Mountain and maybe think they have an argument,
especially in this kind of format, because Ethan and JoJo Urich are freaking scoring points for you.
I think Dorman has an argument out of South Carolina. I know I may be in the minority thinks that, but I think they have an argument.
We'll get to see this weekend.
Yes, we will, which is I'm excited. I think they have an argument to be in that mix. I think those teams would for sure be in like my top 30, top 35.
Yeah.
But I will say, once you hit like 11 and down, it gets rough. It's rough. So I don't. All right. You didn't butcher it, if that's what you're asking. I don't think you butchered it by any means.
All right, so let's jump to the Southern Slam since we already just talked about it. That'll be our final part of this episode. Yeah. And as you look through this top 25, I think there are 5 teams that are headed to the Southern Slam out of this. Baylor will be there.
I do believe so, yeah.
Baylor will be there. Beaufort will be there. Eastside will be there. 3 of the top 10. Jefferson will be there. Mount Pisgah will be there. So those 5 teams will be there. And if we look down the list of the number of teams that will be at the knockout, it goes a little bit beyond those 5 teams. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's go to Southern Slam first.
Stay here in Southern Slam.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. So at a team perspective, Alabama's bringing some studs. Mortimer Jordan and Mountain Brook are 1 and 2 in 6A. Bob Jones is number 3 in 7A. Georgia has the teams we already mentioned, plus Cass, Mill Creek, Ola, Woodward Academy, love it. Those teams. Tennessee's bringing Dobbins Bennett. North Carolina's bringing Davie County. And then you got pretty much the who's who from the state of South Carolina. Dorman, Somerville, all of them. How good?
One team.
Mm-hmm.
There's one team I want to make sure that, because I always love when teams like this make their way down south. Cape Panaplin out of Delaware. A lot of y'all at home that watch this may not know a lot of their guys, but they got some hammers that will play a part in some of these brackets, and we'll get there when we get there. But please be alerted. They are in the mix.
Well, and last year, I think it was Dom Bambinelli had a Cape Penelope kid in the finals, and Dom beat him.
Panaplin.
All right. So I don't know how to say
Panaplin.
But they, they're always going to bring a couple of kids. They're going to be in the hunt. They're Delaware State champions. It's not a big state, but they'll come to compete. They compete against really
good squad.
Yeah,
a good squad. They go to. I think they go to Escape the Rock. Like they go to a couple really, really good tournaments every year. They go to a couple. I'm probably wrong. It may not be Escape the Rock, but there's one that I know of that it's like that they go to every year.
I don't have any idea. I have no clue.
No, one of my Northeast people will help me.
All right. So
by help, I mean yell at me.
So what I want to do here is Lucas and I don't have enough time to go through. I mean, we're going to go through every single weight, but we're not going to talk about all the kids and all the different things and everything else. So
I'm not giving you my top 8 like I did for Knockout last year. I'll do that for Knockout, but I'm not giving you my top 8.
All right. So let's jump to 106. And these are guesses, guys, based upon weights that we think they're going to be at or that they've been at. If you want to see everything we're talking about, you go read the preview that'll be posted tomorrow, Wednesday, on SC Wrestle Plus. So yeah, let's jump at 106. And my favorite is got to be Quay Mills.
I agree. He's looked really good all year. He's looked incredible.
I agree.
Yeah, I think not to say that he's the out and out favorite, but I think he is your odds on favorite.
So at 13, we have Preston White, Alex Allison out of Liberty, Rylan Ibold, and then a handful of state placers, a handful of other state qualifiers. Who are you looking at 113?
If I had to give you my pick at 113, if Alex Allison is at the weight, I like Allison. Obviously, when he's on his day, we know what Rylan Ibold can do. I want to make a comment. We talked about Cape Panaplin. One of their dogs, Trip Gannon, placed 6th at Delaware State. He also had a really good offseason, had a good performance at Super 32. He's one to watch out for if you draw him in the bracket. He's one to just keep an eye on.
All right. So I'm going to go, I'll tell you, I think Ibold has wrestled exceptionally well so far this year. I think he might.
Absolutely.
I think he took 3rd here at the Southern Slam last year. So he's definitely one to watch.
Yes.
In a weight, if you remember, I think it was 113, Antonio Mills pinned Roman Bellardo in the finals.
Yeah.
And Ibold took 3rd.
Yeah, last year was a nutty weight class. 113 last year was crazy.
120 features state champ from Baylor, William Phillips, Ollie Phillips to everybody else. A bunch of state runners-up, including DJ Clark, Cooper Strickland, Brian Reed, Steven Springfield from Mountain Brook, Sam Weiland from Eastside, and then again, a bunch of placers, a bunch of qualifiers. Who stands out at 120?
Lots of really good guys here. Obviously, Ollie Phillips, again, I think he's your odds-on favorite. However, guys like Strickland and Clark will be roadblocks along the way. A couple guys down below. Patrick Smythe has this ability to give some really good guys good matches. He's in the mix. He's out of love it. If you don't remember him, I talked about him all last year as one of my dark horses. Pierre Nelson has jump levels in his game. You haven't, and then down below, guy that I've seen, he was a qualifier last year, but has looked good. It's Quentin Benjamin at Lugoff Elgin. Don't be surprised if you see him make a run toward the podium. And if you draw him early, be on your toes.
All right. So I agree with Ollie Phillips. I like DJ Clark, who made the finals last year at 6. It'll be interesting to see how he does with the other 20-pounders. A name that's off the radar for me that I think you should keep an eye on is Hunter Barrett from Cass. It'll be interesting to see if Barrett will be at 20, Lee Camp will be at 20 or 26. It's hard to know exactly where those two will end up, but Cass has got a few kids here in this group with Rowdy Duck up at 32 that definitely wants to watch. All right.
What a name. Rowdy Duck. What a name.
126, potentially 5 state champions in the weight. Antonio Mills, Lee Camp, Roman Bilardo, Jacob Bond, and a very dangerous Mason Jacob out of Dobbins Bennett. You have Gianni Botone, who is runner-up.
I was going to say, don't just stop there. This might be the best bracket in the tournament. It could work out to be the best bracket in the tournament.
It could.
Gianni Botone, Luke Johannes, Caleb Wright at a Mortimer Jordan, Caden Clark at a Bob Jones, who don't look at him as a 4th placer. He has some really good wins. And then you look down below, you got a couple tough qualifiers in the mix. And in my opinion, dare I say, maybe the best pound-for-pound guy in the state of Georgia in the bracket. Dare I say?
Antonio Mills.
He might just be. He's continuing to make that argument every time I see him wrestle. He's screaming it at me with the way he wrestles. So he might just be.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I think Mills and Mason Jacob have had some battles.
I want to see.
I'm not going to say that's going to be the finals, but those two are super tough.
I want to see. I don't care what happens. I want to see Roman Bilardo, Jacob Bond. That match might have 75 points in it.
All right, let's move to 132.
That match might have 75 points. So serious. 132.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll run down this one. Possible 5 state champions in it. Connor Doherty from 106 all the way up to 132 out of Mount Pisgah. Tanner Spalding. You got Brody Christmas out of More Jordan. Jaden Morris out of BHP. And Connor Bowden, as I believe they say that name.
I think that's how you say it.
Out of Burns, but then as well down below, Schroeder, Herring, Rowdy Duck, Rylan Griggs, Tucker Kazenko, recently committed to Tarleton State. Shout out to Tucker. As well, Flowers. Ooh. And then the biggest question, I think, in this weight class, down below, Buford could run MacArthur or McCormick. I would love to see Maddox MacArthur in this weight class.
I would too. Both of them, neither one of them have wrestled yet this year. So I don't know.
That's
hurt, or whatever. Maybe they're still working on their weight descent plan. I have no clue. I was gonna say
probably getting down the weight. You never know. It's always weird when you get to this point of the year when after Thanksgiving you get the +1 and now everybody kind of starts looking at their weight descents like, hey, what can I make when? So lots of stuff that could be done here.
So for me, the person to watch, Tanner Spalding.
Agreed. I agree with you there.
He's looked great.
That kid has had a good year and a half.
He really has.
12 months, he's looked incredible. Just continue. Every time I see Tanner Spalding on the mat, he adds something to his game.
So 138, the single biggest question is Drew Gorman. And he hasn't wrestled yet, right? We assume he's going to be at 38. I mean, honestly, Gorman wrestled 32 at Super 32. Is he smaller than Maddox MacArthur now? Is that what has to happen for their lineup?
I would say, I think for Buford, their best bet at winning is having Gorman down, Maddox up. I think that's their best bet.
So will we see him at 32? Who knows? Will we see him at all? I don't know. Got Kel Kusky, Peyton Schrader, Kel Edwards, Thomas Johnson out of James Island, South Carolina is super good. A ton of other placers, a ton of of state qualifiers. And the big question is, who will we see from Baylor? Will it be freshman Malachi Puckett, or will it be Matt Hart? Could we get Matt Hart versus Drew Gorman?
Oh, tantalizing matchup possibility there. I will say, I would like to see Malachi Puckett on the mat. I've heard great things about him, and I haven't actually seen him with my own two eyes. And like I said, I believe I'll be at Southern Slam.
Did you not get him when he was at Elite Eight?
No, I missed him. I kept missing him.
I watched him wrestle a couple times.
I don't think I did, at least. I might have. Someone tell me down below if I'm wrong, which I probably am. Got to watch out for in that bracket. That may be off the beaten path. Max Meadows at a Cape Annapolis state qualifier. Kid's super tough. Knowing that Cape Annapolis was coming, I did do some prior research about that.
Woohoo! All right, take us 144.
144, a fascinating weight class. Gavin Pope at a Buford, Blue Stifler at a Mill Creek, JoJo Morris at a BHP. Those are your three state champions, as we know of there. Down below, though, guys like Hank Lee, runner-up at the East Side. My guy to watch at this weight class, Davion Redmond at Ola, has every time he's wrestled looked incredible and added something. Ryan Jones at a 96, Chris Lang at a Mount Pisgah, and then you have a swath of qualifiers below them. But then we look at Baylor again. Titus Norman, Matt Hart, maybe Nate Askew. Lots of really interesting possibilities down at 144 for Baylor. This is where Baylor gets to that point in their lineup where, dare I say, no one in the Southeast other than Lake Highland can touch them.
Agreed. The thing you have to figure out for Baylor
it gets to that point where it gets ridiculous.
Who fits in the lineup is going to be the question. Because,
absolutely.
I mean, they're all so close together, and one of them you would think would have to go 38, 44, maybe one at 150, but then you've still got studs at 50, and then you've got Sturgill and Norman above them, so who knows? I'll tell you what, have Pope and Stifler wrestled?
I don't know if they actually have. I feel like that I can't remember back to seeing them wrestle each other.
I do not remember.
I'd be interested in that.
I do not remember seeing the two of them cross paths before. So
I know my matrix favors Pope in that one. My matrix favors Pope.
Okay. All right. Let's jump to 150. Marley Washington out of Pisgah. George Mayholtz out of Eastside, who could be at 44, but we'll assume he's going to be up at 50. Brian Papkin out of Ola. Nick Walker. Camp.
Team Fat and Scrappy member Brian Papkin.
Nick Walker out of where? Cape
Annapolis.
Okay.
Annapolis.
I got it.
By the way, Nick Walker, dude is a stud. Dude is a stud.
You got Owen Hendricks. You got a ton again in this group of different wrestlers, and I think it'll be our first time to see David Jewell in a cast singlet.
Yes, one of the transfers that went a little under the radar this year, Jewell to Cass. It's a good one. Good pickup for Cass. And as well, Hudson Danielson in the mix. He has had a really, really, really good start to the year and looked good in the offseason or in the preseason too. I will say, man, Mayholtz in Washington, I think that if that ends up being the weight, will be your final. But man, it's when Brian Papkin is on, I'm sorry, there's not a lot of guys in the country I'm not picking him against.
I tell you what,
when he's on the,
well, I was just gonna say, when we get to the quarters on Saturday morning with some of these weights in the middle here, there are gonna be some outstanding quarterfinals.
I want to see a Owen Hendricks George Mayholtz matchup. I want to see that. I don't know if we have seen that, but I'm curious stylistically how Owen Hendricks would try to handle Mayholtz's offense. That's one of those that just I'm interested to see.
Yeah, I don't know if they've wrestled one another or not. I just know that George wasn't very happy with me in the latest SE ranking, so he's probably going to go out there and try to hammer some people so that I can move him up a little bit.
Boost the ranking up there, stud.
There you go. That's right. 157. Will we see Dallas Russell at 57? Jack Weiland, Eli Murray. Go ahead.
I will hope so, because Honey Badger is one of the most fun guys in the entire Southeast to watch. I know he's a football player, so I pray on Jefferson's downfall whenever they play football, just so we get him on the mat quicker. I'm just telling you, if any of my friends that are wrestlers also play football, when it gets to the postseason, I hope your team loses in the first round. Like, I should make that clear. I want you to lose.
Do we know if Jefferson is still playing football or not?
Give me 20 seconds, I'll tell you.
All right. Well, as you do that.
While you do that, we're talking about the rest of the weight while I figure it out.
So Eli Murray out of Lake Norman is a stud. He should be up at 157. Creek Rowe out of Cass is another wrestler who's had a really good fall. Definitely one to watch. I'll tell you what. And then last but not least, on the bottom of this list is Callum McCormick, talented freshman out of Buford. Not going to win the weight, I don't think. But I'll tell you what. Can he peek his way up and onto the podium? It would be big for Buford.
So sad news, Jefferson is still in the playoffs in football, so I'd be willing to wager
we probably
might
won't
not see Dallas Russell.
We probably won't see Dallas Russell, which I'm still going to put him in the thing, but we probably won't see him.
Yeah. I hope they lose in the semis, though, so we get him next week. Yeah, no, I agree with you about Callum McCormick, by the way. That kid, he continues to improve. I'm fascinated to see where he ends up in this bracket. He's going to be the rough draw for somebody. Somebody's going to be a top 8 seed and have him in their quarter.
And be a little surprised with the freshmen coming out that can go. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and be annoyed, probably. Be annoyed.
Well, and again, Baylor, you've got Chase Hart, William Emmendorfer, or Dorfer. I think it's Dorfer. You got some wrestlers that in there. Again, where does Nate Askew fall? I don't know. Does he fall at 50? Is he up at 57? 57 seems a little big for me, but again, who knows?
You never know. You never know, because Nate has a frame that if he puts the right weight on, he could be a 57. He'd have to put the right weight on. I could see him carrying 57 well.
165. Why don't you take it for us?
Adam Baylor, Hunter Sturgill, he's in the weight. Frank Taylor at 96. Those are your 2 state champions in the weight, but don't let that fool you. Grayson Santee, Elijah Wade, Dylan Reel, Jared Walker at Ola, Ian Vaselio at a Liberty, guys like Jacob Horton, Dylan Friesian, Mason Tompkins at a Cass. This is a really, really interesting weight class.
Yeah, and I don't know that we've seen Mason Tompkins for Cass yet. So it'll be interesting to see if he's in the lineup. But on paper, I mean, Grayson Santee is right there. I have not seen Frank Taylor wrestle, so I don't really know him all that well. But I'll tell you what, I'm not sure that there's anybody at the same level as Hunter Sturgill.
I agree. Frank Taylor is wrestles like he's fighting a gorilla in a phone booth.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't know how that super tough, that kid. Frank Taylor's super tough. Shout out to him.
175. Wow.
Okay. Seeing if this worked out, this is the best weight of the tournament. I didn't know that this is how the weights worked out. Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know. This is a guess. Remember that. This is a guess.
If this is how it works out, it's the best weight of the tournament.
So Dom Bambinelli, Chris Mance, Robbie DeHaven, Max Norman.
Before we get into it, New Missouri Tiger, Dom Bambinelli.
Correct. Tiger style, right?
Shout out to him. Which I was correct in predicting that, by the way. So I'm 1 for 2 on that class's schools. I was wrong with Gorman, but I was right with Bambinelli.
Who'd you pick for Gorman?
Nebraska.
Oh. All right.
I thought because of the James Green connection.
Harrison Jones from Chapin, Hunter Testa from Davie County, who we saw at Super 32 as well. Got Malachi
super
Thompson.
Tough, that kid.
Xander Dawson is in the group. Ben Krause from Bob Jones is super tough. You got Davis Dendy potentially in that group. I mean, You got Steel Brown.
So
you've got a
I was gonna say,
tough group.
Don't let the top four, everybody fool you into thinking it's a top heavyweight class. Obviously, the top four are incredible. But beyond them, guys like Jones, Testa, Joyner, this is a really, really good weight class. I want to see Don Bambinelli, Max Norman, please and thank you. In fact, let them wrestle a best of 7 in the finals. Let them wrestle a best of 7 if they get there. I don't care.
190. Will we see Creed Thomas at 190 or will we see Creed Thomas at 175? I can't imagine him going 75, right?
I can't either. He won't go 75 in this. Beyond that, we'll probably see him up at 90. So you got him, Case and Howe, JT Spence out of Liberty, Bernard Leonard, but mixed in there because he's not a state champion. Connor McCloskey and Joshua Lang are both super tough. So 90, sneaky good weight class, and you have Said Gazimov at a high point down there, who as well can put on a good performance. You got a guy like a Weston Toussaint, perhaps how you say that.
I think it
looks French in spelling.
I could be wrong, but I don't know.
Fair enough. But beyond that, 190 is an interesting weight class as well.
Well, and we know Howell will be at 190 if he's here, right? Spence will be at 190. McCloskey will be at 190. We know those. Baron Leonard, I don't know if Eastside's still playing football or not, but because I know he does play football. So does Peyton Schrader from who is a lighter weight class. He also plays football. But again, 190, tough weight class. And, this is where we get to a point of a lot of uncertainty because any of the guys who are playing football, I mean, they might only be out for like 4 days. I mean, who will they even be on the mat? I mean, we just don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Who knows?
215. Give me a rundown.
215. Fascinating weight class. Added Gilbert, you have Colton Travis, he's your lone state champion in the bracket. Aaron Reiner, who's had a great run this season. William Courtney out of Mountain Brook. Dak Seaborn. Oh, what a name out of Greenwood. What a name on him. Then you have a couple other guys like Gilbert Stein, Cooper Heiler, Jason Reed, a state qualifier. Lots of qualifiers and placers in this bracket. Super interesting.
So if we get it, Travis versus Reiner actually could be a really, really good 215-pound match. Seems like Reiner has really been wrestling at a different level, a level that Buford really probably needs him to wrestle at if they're going to try to knock off Camden.
They need him wrestling like this if they're going to beat Camden. They need him to be performing at this high of a level consistently.
Agreed, and he has been. He's wrestling great, but Colton Travis is a tough state champ out of South Carolina. So, all right,
Absolutely.
And then at 285, Dorman state champion Anaje Fowler, Christian Bell again plays football for Woodward Academy. Is Woodward Academy still playing? I don't know. Garrett Crowder from Dobbins Bennett, who was a placer last year at 220 at the knockout. Patrick Donahue.
Yes, I do remember the name.
Owen Sargent. There's a lot of different wrestlers at 285 if we see them. Big if.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in the football season. My one to watch here is probably Christian Bell. However, I am fascinated by a matchup of him and Fowler should it happen.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, man. Southern Slam. Probably one of the top 5 tournaments in the Southeast. Would you agree with that?
It might be number 2, honestly. It might be number 2.
I agree with you. Fantastic. It's going to be awesome this weekend. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Quick fire. Who's winning the team title?
Who's
putting
winning
you
the
on the
spot?
spot?
Baylor.
Probably safe pick.
Who's winning the team title?
Probably Baylor. But I'll tell you something. The lineup goes their way. Buford.
All right. Who gets OW?
Whoever wins 165. Or 175. Whoever wins that weight, I bet will.
So you're
because you gotta remember they do the whole lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight OW, and then the super duper Southern Slam spectacular OW of OW's King of Kings.
Anyway,
they're the only tournament that does it, and I love it. They're the only tournament that does it, and I love it.
So for everybody watching, it is Friday.
Nick Masters, you shouldn't have beat me for that one my senior year, and you know it. I beat Singleton, for God's sakes.
It is Friday and Saturday. I will be there. I think Scrappy over there will be there. Still not 100% sure on that.
That is the plan.
We hope
if anything, I'll be there on the 3rd.
We hope to be able to get some video and check back in next week. And